What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, be good boys, be girls from around the world. This is B-Boy Tydal from Decypher, the podcast. We got Rush here from MZK, $7, fresh socks in the house. He is going to be our guest. Rush, please introduce yourself.
What up? Te Tanga Wepiha is my name. Go by Rush. The bro said the cruise. Yeah.
So to start the show off, we're going to go straight into quick fire. First question is SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube. Where do you find your music?
At the moment, Spotify and YouTube.
Easy. Next one is favorite music to dance to.
Favorite music to dance to, depending on the vibe. If it's a party vibe, salsa music, Afro. I love house music too. Pretty much anything with a bouncy, good vibe. Yeah, probably all that.
Anything to party to.
Yeah.
Next question, number 3, is favorite jam around the world.
Favorite jam around the world will be a toss-up between Circle Kingz and RF.
Circle Kingz was in Switzerland, RF in Singapore.
Yeah.
Big shout out to those guys.
It's in Vietnam now. It's in Da Nang now, so yeah.
Next question, number 4, is GOAT dancer. Greatest of all time.
Ooh, greatest of all time dancer. I'll say a couple. For breaking, Ken Swift, Maurizio, K. Mel. Other styles, Shan S, is a hip house dancer. Brooklyn Terry, Pop and Pete. These are dudes I can watch all the time and just love what they do. But yeah, Shan S was one of my favorite dancers.
Mad. Next question, number 5. Who is an up-and-comer that you think everybody else should be watching?
Just to add to the other question too, Brian Green. Brian Green is fresh as well. Up-and-comer, probably Ryan from Ready to Rock. He's really dope, young kid. I think he's 15, from Japan. Student of the game, student of the culture. He's really fresh. Check him out.
Number 6, call out, crew, bite. So who would you call out? Who would you enter a 2-on-2 crew battle with? And who would you bite?
If it was a call out and I was still active, I think I would like to battle a kid like Ryan. Nice little tight cipher. See what he can do in that space without the ability to fly. I think that'll be dope. Love to battle Kenny and get absolutely smoked when he was in his prime. Yeah, and just whoever's around, for me, calling out was always a feeling. So, yeah, whoever I felt like I could test myself against or test as well, yeah, that would be the one. What was the other one?
Who would you enter a 2-on-2 crew battle with?
Enter a 2-on-2. I like to enter with someone who has a very different style to me, just so we can both expose different parts of the crew, of the opposition. I love battling with Mauser. He's one of my favorite dudes to battle with. I reckon Ryan will be a dope kid to enter with. Stripes is fresh. And who else? Yeah, probably those fellas.
Mad. And the last one is, who would you bite?
Who would I bite? Ooh, probably I think the guys I've bitten the most from would be Kenny and Maurizio. They're like my idols. Nothing's changed. I probably wouldn't bite anyone from these days. I think those fellas are... You look at their stuff now, there's so much footage of Kenny now online just going off, and like every single video you see, he's doing different stuff. Man, he doesn't get enough props. In my day he did, like he was the man, he was always the man, but I think he's kind of gotten forgotten about these days. If you check his shit out, like he's the man.
So you wouldn't bite anybody from nowadays? Does that mean they're just a little bit bland?
Yeah, a lot of people are bland. To be honest.
Damn.
Some fellas I've seen, even when I'm judging Olympic stuff, I'm like, and then someone will be like, he's famous. That fella's famous? Okay. I think
Savage.
Well, it's true, like they got the social media, and they look good with their shirt off, or I don't know, they do other things, and that's how they're famous. And then you see them break. Dude's got 200,000 followers, and you see them break, and can't even top rock, man. You know what I mean? So, there's no one from now that I would bite. Just Kenny, Maurizio.
Question number 7. What's your favorite ice cream?
Favorite ice cream? Going back, Gold Rush. These are New Zealand ice creams. Gold Rush, Twirl. I like French vanilla. Just some nice classic ice cream from the dairy. Yeah.
Last question, hangi or boil up?
I like hangi straight out of the ground, and I like boil up like the next day or the day after. So, yeah.
So quickly, hangi is a traditional Māori or Pacific Islander method to cook food in the earth, and then boil up is pretty much a boil up of some type of meat bones, and then vegetables, weeds, yeah.
Puhai is kind of a weed.
And root vegetables and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Sweet. So, I actually wanted to touch on the subject, and this is about how do we evolve from breaking outside of breaking? Like, what are the things that we can do as artists outside of breaking to keep us within the culture, and how have you navigated that path for yourself?
I guess I want to first acknowledge like that it's okay to step away from breaking. Like I remember when I was really active, and when I'd get injured, it was like you're in the pits, you know what I mean? You're like, damn, I can't break. But I remember it was when I injured my hip and my wrist. I couldn't really get down. No, sorry, it was my knee. I had a meniscus tear. Couldn't do any footwork, and it forced me to do other things, and I started getting into house, and I saw how that strengthened my breaking. So then if you transfer that over and apply that in life, you know, other things, when you learn other skills, it'll make you better at your craft. So evolving as an artist for me, I mean, I'm 40 now, turned 40 last week. I've learned how to take what I've learnt in hip-hop and breaking and transfer that over to other things in life, to be I work in prisons, I work with kids. Hip-hop is my main tool. Hip-hop pedagogy helps me. I know how to adapt, I know how to freestyle, I know how to read the room. When I say freestyle, I mean observe what's going on, throw the plan out the window, and go from there. And I think sometimes, or a lot of the times, we as hip-hoppers don't understand the skills that we have and how we can transfer those over. And once you realize that, man, you realize that you have all these skills that you can't learn at university, that you can apply in the real world. We're charismatic, we got character. That goes a long way.
How do you find those skills to be transferable in the outside world? And how have you created a career for yourself that's not within the system, you know?
Well, first of all, one tool I found is very powerful is reflecting on my experiences. So I look back at when I was a kid. What drew me to hip-hop? What did I like about it? And then I kind of put myself in those guys' shoes and think about how I can impact these young people. Like, for example, when I go into prison, sometimes it's just the way you look, the way you move, the way you talk. That first impression is how you get them. You know what I mean? So, that for me, building those connections, knowing how to build connections, is powerful. And like I think in hip hop we've become really good at that. Even sharing ciphers and knowing how to add to conversations.
Yeah, it's a form of networking, right?
Yeah, fully, bro. But even like, when we're in a cipher, we learn how to add to the conversation, to move it and steer it in a certain way. I've learned I'm able to do that with the kids I work with. I kind of read the room. Oh, it's going in a funny way. I'm going to chuck this and make them laugh. We do this. And these are the kind of things where like I've worked with psychologists and that, and they're just like, man, I can't do what you do. And then because I've studied mental health, I'm able to kind of translate to them, this is what I'm doing in that space. This is all it is. It's just hidden. Well, not hidden. It's done in a stealth way, because once the kids get a sniff, if they think you're one of those fellas, they're not going to listen. So I think hip hop is the meanest costume I can put on and go into those worlds. Even if I'm sitting in with a, like if I'm sitting with like a mayor or something and we're talking about a program that I want to implement, they never meet fellas like us, you know what I mean? And the way that we're able to talk and the confidence that we have, because we've been in ciphers, we've been in jams where we've got 1,000 people looking at us, and we got to be confident, and we got to be clean, we got to make our moves look dope. We can't crash, we can't fail. I think when I go into like a meeting, I bring that with me, and I don't worry. I trust the process. I have a plan, but I'm ready to throw it out if I have to. And just like a battle, bro, you know what I mean? You have your sets. Damn, he did that. I've got this move. You know what I mean? Sometimes one of the worst things you can do in a battle is stick to the script, you know, or we'll stick to the set that you have. I've seen fellas do that and they lose. And they're like, man, I had all these moves. And I'm like, well, what was the point? Now you can't even do them. You try to save them for the finals. The goal is to get there. You know what I mean? Which I've been talking about as a good workshop, is teaching people how to create new stuff for finals, which was next workshop I want to do. Is use all your stuff to get there, and then have the tools to be able to create brand new stuff
on the spot.
Yeah, you got to be good at that, and there's techniques for that. And I think stuff like that out in the real world is super valuable.
Yeah, learning how to create on the spot. That's a really good workshop to hold. Because I think a lot of people will get a lot of value to be able to do that in battle and to be able to present themselves quickly, right? We're going to move into your origin story. And how I want to start this is, were you a superhero or a villain in breaking?
Superhero, villain. I think to some people I was a villain, and some people I was a superhero. It's a hard one. I think definitely a villain to anyone from Queensland.
Why is that?
We just had a really healthy, we had healthy competition between Queensland and what we were doing. They were all about big dynamic power moves, and we were all about footwork, transitions, flow, just two different styles, you know.
Was that skill at will?
Skill at will, yep. Skill at will. And my crew, Fresh Socks, from Melbourne, which is an amalgamation of two crews. It's an amalgamation of ISO and Ghetto Rock, who actually had beef originally. Then they came together and they made Fresh Socks. And yeah, we just like to talk shit and diss people and put people off, because that's how we were taught. That you know, this is hip hop. You talk shit and you back it up. You know, you don't talk shit and not back it up. You talk shit and you back it up. So we could back it up. So we talked a lot of shit, and those fellas weren't really about that. They were just about going out and doing their moves. And yeah, they hated us for it, but it always made good battles. People, whenever we were battling, everyone came around and piled around. So and now we're all homies. So you know, it's all good. But yeah. So I grew up seeing glimpses of breaking in movies, like randomly, like what was one, Teen Wolf. I think Crazy Legs does a backspin. I think he's dressed up as the wolf and he does a backspin. No Retreat, No Surrender, which was just like this movie, like a fighting movie, and the dude's friend, they're at a party and he starts busting out. Just like little random things in movies. So I was always aware of it and always thought it was cool. But it wasn't until started seeing it in music videos and on like MTV Awards and all that. It was like around 97 that I was like, man, I want to try and do this. And then I went to a local video store and found these VHS tapes. One was called Breakdance USA, and another one was called Breakdance Fever. And they were just these old videos from the 80s of people breaking. And that's where we learned some of our basics. And then we found out about a couple of dudes breaking in Tauranga. And they were at this community centre. And at first I used to just go there and watch because I was too shy. And then slowly, next week got through the door. Next week got closer to the floor where they were breaking. And then finally one of the dudes who was one of my mentors in the beginning, Gilly, he was like, bro, do you want to learn? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, all right, come here. And he started teaching me the basics. And then I remember he said to me at one point, like, you know, if you want to do this and if you want to come here, you got to stay out of trouble.
How old were you at the time?
15, 16. Yeah. And like back then, like we were very transient kids. Like we just were in and out of things. Like we weren't really sticking to doing stuff, you know. It was like, I'll try this for a little bit, try this for a little bit. But breaking was the one thing that grabbed me, and I just got addicted to it. And I think what I loved about it was the positive reinforcement from everybody. You would do something and everyone would be like, yeah, man. Because I never felt like I was good at anything. Super failing at school, like heaps of us were. And then, breaking was something that garnered respect from my peers. Got props for it. And I think just something that gives you that is so important, especially when you're not getting that. And yeah, 15, 16. And I remember the first time I jumped in a proper cypher. It was at this like illegal party. These dudes had blocked off this underground car park underneath a bank. They put like a tarpaulin over the entrance of it, blocked it off, and they set up like a DJ booth in the car park. And they ran like a party there, so they were like charging people to come in this car park. And I went in there and there was a DJ playing breaks, and then there was a cypher. And there were dudes breaking, and I was like so shy, so nervous. But I went in and did a run. I think I have it somewhere. It's like 98.
On film?
Yeah, I got it on tape, yeah. I got the tape at home, actually. And what was funny was I was at a kapahaka, like wānanga kapa. For those that don't know, kapahaka is like a cultural dance thing that we do back home.
Mm-hmm.
And I had snuck out of it to go to this party, which was in town, like probably like a 20-minute walk from school, to go to this, so I could jump in the cypher. And then I came back and I got in so much trouble. But those were the things that we did. And like even at school we had to hide, because we were practicing every lunchtime. We had to hide because the teachers didn't understand what we were doing. They were like, these kids are going to hurt themselves, you know. And we just kept getting kicked out of the gym until one of the I think it was the music teacher gave us a place to practice, and we started training in the school hall. And it was secretive, so no one really knew about it. And we did that for like a year or two. We just practiced in the school hall and got better and better. And then I think from there we made a crew, entered some local battles, won, and then went to the city, went to Auckland, entered some battles there, won.
Who was your first crew?
Well, it was crack up. Like me, this was when I was like 15, 16. Me and two other dudes, me and my cousin, Willie Widamu, and this other guy, Terry, his name was Jax. There was three of us. We were called 3MB boys, which was Three Musketeers. It was just a funny thing because we had to make up a name to enter.
Yeah.
And that was the very, very first time. That was probably like 98, 99, around there. And then I got down with Arataki Breakers, which would become Blackout Crew. Me and my cousin Lee thought of the name Blackout. So that was probably like my first major crew. And then we entered a competition in Auckland called Raw Styles, won that, and that kind of like opened my eyes, and I'm like, man, I'm good at something. I want to go 100 at this. And then I actually saw a VHS tape of the first X Games here, and it had Ghetto Rock and Systematic and all these crews in it, and I was like, wow, there's a scene over there. And that's when I decided I wanted to come to Australia and I wanted to battle those guys. And didn't have a plan, just knew I was good at this thing and I'm going to run with it because it was the only thing I was good at. So moved over to Australia and ended up getting down in the same crew as those dudes, which was crazy. So yeah, that was me. That was the early days.
And then I guess tell us about the journey in terms of like coming to Sydney and then eventually finding your way to, did you go to Melbourne and then to Perth? Like how did you find yourself with Fresh Socks?
Yeah, so I always had a connection with Melbourne because I have family living there. And when I first moved to Australia, which was in 2002, I moved to Sydney. I lived in Bankstown. Didn't know anybody. I just went to the local PCYC, saw some guys breaking, and one of them was Benny.
From Hybrid Forms.
From Hybrid Forms. Benny and this fella named Truce, this Cook Island fella. And I was like, oh, you guys break? Oh, yeah, sweet. And then I got down and they're like, oh man, you should go to these other spots. And they told me about Parramatta, and they told me about Marrickville. So Marrickville was a practice spot on Tuesdays. Parramatta, I believe, was on Thursdays. So then I started going to those nights. And then there was a night in Woolloomooloo, PCYC on a Wednesday. That was like the city practice spot. So I would kind of go, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then I think Friday was Bankstown, PCYC. But yeah, that's when I met SKB. There was another crew called NBD, Nervous Breakdown, from Parramatta as well. The crew from the city was Mind of Style. And I think it was when I can't remember which event it was where I first met the Melbourne dudes, but I met Mauser and that, and they just had a different vibe about them. Like, they just come in the room and just start dissing everybody, and I just thought it was hilarious. And everyone was getting pissed off at them, like, man, they're dicks, and I'm like, they're funny, bro. I'm not taking it serious. But they'll just that was their game plan, you know. They'll come in and just make everyone feel nervous, and then when they battle, they'll be half of what they are. It's just a tactic, you know. So I really liked that about them. And then I remember we just started vibing. We were friends. We just became friends, and that's how we became crew, and which I think is important. That's how crews are formed, you know. You got to have a connection. It's not just about, you know, our styles make sense. Your philosophy's got to make sense. So our philosophy was definitely on point. And this was before Pepito got down, because he was living in Japan. And then when Pepito came over, that's when we kind of went up another level, because he was like, he was on point when he got back from Japan. And then that's when Fresh Socks became Fresh Socks, and we were just tearing up the scene, and everyone hated us because we were winning.
The villainous era.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's funny because you're a villain because all they know of you is that avatar that you are in this.
That alter ego.
Yeah, they don't know anything about you on the outside, and not realizing, like, that's how we are releasing that part of us, you know, in a positive way. We're doing it that way. So yeah, I reckon we were villains. Yeah, definitely.
Creating noise. And then how did that come into the relationship to Zulu Kingz?
Yeah, so I think we first went to the States in 2004. I think that's when we first... No, sorry. Rocksteady Crew did a tour here. And that's when Alien Ness was still down with Rocksteady Crew. And they did a tour, they did a show here, and it was Ness and K-Mel was in the show. It was crazy. And then they battled Fresh Socks in an exhibition battle in Melbourne. Someone has the footage. We got to try and get that, because it was an amazing battle, Fresh Socks and Rocksteady Crew. And then I remember after that, K-Mel was just like, when he came here to Sydney, we're asking him, like, who stood out in Melbourne? And they were like, he was just like, man, there was this little white dude. And we're like, was he Latino, Hispanic? Yeah. I was like, Pepito? He's like, yeah. And he was just talking about Pepito, like, man, he was amazing. I'm like, oh, fuck, okay, wicked. But yeah, it was I think Ness had come over and seen us, but he liked our vibe, because we're all hip-hop dudes, you know, like, we did all the elements, you know what I mean? And breaking was just our main element. Like, we also like rapping, some of us were DJing, doing graph. A couple of dudes in the crew do graph. So yeah, Ness really liked that. Plus we liked to party and do other things. Like, not everything was breaking, you know what I mean? And Ness is like that too. And then we just kept building that relationship, and then I think it was 2006 we went back to the States, and we entered. That was the first time I entered with Zulu Kingz. We entered at B-Boy Summit Boss Jam. We put 2 crews in. There was one crew that had Casper and Kay and all that, and then there was another crew that was like me, Vix. I can't remember who else was in the crew, but it was a dope crew. I could be getting things mixed up, but yeah, we did. That was when I really connected. 2006. When I went over, I stayed with Casper while I was there, and then just got to know the crew a bit more. And then we just got put down, and then Ness came and lived here for a while, and he's probably one guy we learnt the most from, just about that New York griminess and just that, I guess, that hustler swag, you know, of that he had. Because besides breaking, he had all these other things on the side he was doing. He was making videos, he was running events, he was just this guy that like exploited every single thing he could, you know, to kind of make money, make a living. And I definitely learned a lot from that about identifying opportunities when you see them, and then trying it out, and being confident that, you know, as hip hoppers, we have that ability to kind of, in a sense, build the plane in the sky. We're good at that. Like, throw us in any environment and we can make it happen. So I saw him do that, and a lot of it had to do with his charisma, and people believed him, and all that kind of stuff. And I definitely got that from Ness, and that's helped me today with some of the work that I do. People are like, oh, we're doing this project, you reckon you can do it? Yeah. I haven't told you about it yet. I'm like, I'm sure we'll be able to suss it out. So yeah, he definitely instilled a different type of confidence in us. And one thing I learned that I held on to, that I got for battling, was when you battle someone, don't focus on what you can't do, because you can't change that. So let's say you're going up against a guy and he's got crazy power, crazy tricks, crazy moves. There's no point thinking about that you can't do that, because you can't change it. What can you do? You can do you. So let's do you as best as you can. Instead of losing here, you'll lose this far from him, you know. Or you might win. They might. Who knows what they're thinking? They're thinking the same thing. You know what I mean? And he also taught us about exposing what they don't have, like really exposing it. So I used to love battling people that have big dynamic moves, because I knew I could really expose it by getting intricate, and I would just go hard at it. And because that's what, for me, battling is about showing everybody what they can't do. The hardest battles for me are other technicians, other people that are, but then you can find what they're not good at, and then you expose that, you focus on that. So he definitely showed, because if you look at Ness's style, he didn't have crazy amounts of things. He had a few things he was really good at, but his timing was impeccable of when to throw things. His charisma, his character was powerful, and he could take people out with that. And, you know, we're just doing like a corkscrew or baby freeze. He was just really good at it. Some people can do it. Most people can't do that. So, yeah.
When you talk about him having these other things outside of breaking, right? And we were sort of talking this before we jumped on. I want to go into that now in terms of like, how do you find that's influenced you, and what are the lessons you've learnt with breaking that have enabled you to create other things outside of breaking? So
at the essence of it, what I've learnt is that you can create anything from nothing. Because breaking, I started with nothing with breaking. It was just seeing it, and it sparked something in me, and then I had to create that myself. So that taught me that, wow, I can build something. So all I need to do is just be patient, build, stick at it, and just keep going and not stop. So I think, for starters, that's the main thing I learned. You can do anything. You just gotta figure out what are the elements that you need to make it happen. Be efficient, manage your energy right, and yeah, just stick at it. I think people don't stick at things long enough. They get a little bit complacent or fed up, and they wonder like why I haven't popped yet. There is no time frame with that. Could take people 6 months, just good timing. Could take people 6 years, take people 10 years. The important thing is to get absorbed and enjoy it. If you enjoy it, then that's the most important part. You'll stick at it. But for me, hip hop and breaking has definitely taught me how to adapt in environments and observe people, read the room, observe body language, how to connect with people. Like so at the moment I work in the prison system. I have a music therapy program that I do with two other brothers, Optimus, who's an MC, who started the program actually. It's called Hip Hop 101, and Fluent, who's another MC. So me, Fluent, and Optimus are based in Banks Hill Detention Centre and Unit 18, which is a solitary confinement unit in Casuarina, an adult prison, but it's for kids. So this is in Perth. So we have a program in there where we just make music with the kids. But I mean, for some people, they'll look at it and they're like, you're just making music. And it's like, you come try and do this. It's not easy. But I think what's important is we need to identify these skills that we have. Some people call them transferable skills, because they're very valuable, and you can't learn them at university. You learn them through life, you know. You learn them through culture. So yeah, it's definitely taught me how to flow, how to adapt, how to freestyle in the moment. That's all valuable stuff. And things like being able to adapt and improvise and freestyle, unfortunately, through a Western lens, isn't really valued, because like if you look at music, for example, and there was a really cool study about therapy and the arts, and they found that like in the Western world, they didn't really value Afrocentric music because of its freestyle aspect. They kind of put it below because it didn't have a score. You know what I mean? It didn't have a product at the end that they can duplicate and give. It was just a jam session. So they were like, oh, they're just mucking around. When actually they didn't realize what was happening in that space. They're reacting to one another. They're feeling one another. And that's what hip hop is, and that's what our program is. So even when we first started, a lot of the staff were like, you know, what's going on there? What are your outcomes? And I'm like, the outcomes, what's happening right there. The product is the healing that's happening in that moment where they're absorbed. Are they ever absorbed? These kids ever absorbed in anything like this? No? Well, man, like, you observe how they are afterwards when they leave. And when these they saw after, like, not even that long, after a couple of weeks, they saw the vibe change in there, and they saw that these kids were now like waking up, were like looking forward to going to the studio, you know, writing rhymes, which is also therapeutic. They're in their cell, you know, writing rhymes, and then they'd come out with all these pages of rhymes, and even the teachers were bugging out like, and these kids don't write nothing. I'm like, yeah, you got to find something that relates to them. You got to do it in their language. Don't come to them and say you've got to do this. Why are they going to read a novel? Like, you know what I mean? You got to, and that's what hip hop was. Hip hop was something that related to me, related to you. It wasn't pushed on us. No one needed to push it on us. It was just there, and then we gravitated to it. We got absorbed in it. We didn't know what was happening at the time, but it was changing us, you know. Yeah, so it's very powerful, and I hope that more and more people utilize the therapeutic aspect of hip hop, because it is our therapy, and it can help a lot of people.
And how is your relationship with breaking now?
When I do break, and when I do get into that kind of space, I actually enjoy it better than ever, because now I'm not breaking for anything. I'm not trying to get any new moves. I'm just doing it for therapy. So I have a space at home in my garage. We have some decks set up and just the floor, and we just play music, and it might just be 10 minutes of Top Rocks, you know, whatever I feel at the time. So that's been a cool change, because I took a big break from breaking. I stopped for like 7 years, injuries, and did other things, studying, working, doing stuff with family when I went back to New Zealand. And now that I've come back, yeah, it's definitely changed. I did like a little trip back to Europe and spent some time with my crew, $7, in Switzerland, and got to hang out with them and see how they're approaching breaking. And they're all just doing it the same thing. It's just all therapy for them, you know, like they can move how they like. There's no judges. They're just vibing. And yeah, that's one thing I definitely want people to take, is that when you get past that, what is it, like that competitive stage of your career, if you want to call it, or your artistry, let's call it that, then it becomes about going in and healing yourself through it. Because for me, if I'm having a crap day, I'm out there, play some tunes, Top Rock, and I feel amazing after, you know what I mean? So
why do you think that is?
I think it's a quick way for me to get into that absorbed state. I think as an artist, or for anybody, if you can find something that gets you absorbed, and I mean like gets you in a state where you lose track of time, it just feels good. You're not thinking anymore. I think that those are very powerful spaces to get into, and I think that's not talked about enough, because people are like, why are you doing that? It's not going to make you any money. You know what I mean? It's like this whole money game. You know what I mean? Forget about that. Like, find something that you can get absorbed in. For me, it's music, making music, anything around music really, and breaking now has become that for me too. So I think it's just getting absorbed, bro, taking my mind off the crap in my life, and then and no what's the word, expectations. I like that about this part of my breaking now. There's no expectations.
I want to sort of keep going, and one of the subjects that I want to talk about is breaking in the Olympics. Because you're a judge, qualified for WDSF events. I guess the first question is, why did you decide to become a judge, and what are your thoughts on breaking in the Olympics?
When I first got asked, I think it was Katsu, he was like, bro, you should get qualified to be a judge for that. I was like, nah, bro, I don't want to do this stuff no more. I don't want to judge. I don't want to do that. And I was also the type. I was one of the guys saying like, nah, this shouldn't be in the Olympics. Doesn't make any sense, especially for what it is for me. And then he said, yeah, that's why you should be in it. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, we need lots of views, because this is new and it needs to be shaped in the right way, in a way where we do get lots of perspectives, because we do also need the people that oppose certain things, because I know in the beginning they didn't want to MC, and then they had to push for that. So even things like that. And I think now, after judging a few of the qualifiers, I've judged a couple in Japan, France, China, then the Oceania one. Was there any other ones? I can't remember. Yeah, it's for me, it's hard because you're judging to a criteria, and you have to actually put your emotions aside. Because for me, judging was emotional, because it was a feeling thing. I'm like, man, that was fire, this person, you know. Whereas that with judging with a system, you can't think about that at all. All you are is the person tallying up these different categories. That's it. Still kind of conflicted when I do it, but I still think it's important to have different people up there doing it, because yeah, it's important that we get different views also. Like I for one don't think it's a good idea if every single judge is judging exactly the same every time. I think that's an issue. Once we all become the same, that's a problem in society and in general. Once we're all the same, we don't have other views on anything, like that's an issue. We have to be diverse in the way we think as well. Like we need to allow that. So, but having those criteria does make it hard. However, each judge, in their own sense, does have their own slightly nuanced perspective of each thing. So, yeah, I think it's a work in progress, and I know they're just trying to get the first one over the line, and it will get better. I think the judging will get better, but yeah, it's been a trippy experience, especially coming from not being allowed to break at school, getting kicked out of the gym, to now it being an Olympic sport. You know what I mean? When I went home, I actually taught a workshop at my school. They've got like this big theatre there now, where they have like a dance program, and they wanted me to teach there, and I told them, like, where this theatre is, it used to be a hall, and we used to get kicked out of here for dancing, and they just couldn't understand why. And I was just like, times have changed, that, you know, like it's becoming like a normal thing. People dance, you know what I mean? Like, what's so wrong with that? What's so bad about that? So, but yeah, it's been a journey, bro. I wouldn't say I love judging or I hate it. It's just a job for me at the moment and a responsibility.
What was the process like to get qualified?
So you had to do like a couple of different exams. You had to sit in a few congresses, a few lectures, and I think for the exam I got the highest in the world, which I didn't understand, because afterwards I was like, I definitely failed. Yeah, because some of the questions were like pretty buzzy questions, and I'm like, I don't know, it could be either, it could be any of these things. What am I supposed to answer? But yeah, apparently got the highest, and then yeah, that helped to get me booked, I guess. And also the fact that I'm from New Zealand and we don't have a lot of competitors from there, so I won't be biased. But the process wasn't too hard. And then once I got my first gig and I did well there, then they were like, yeah, cool, we'll get you for more. And then you literally get an email, are you free in 2 weeks? And you have to kind of make yourself free. So yeah, off to Hong Kong in a couple of weeks for a training. And then I don't think they've picked the actual Olympic judges yet, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
What do you think, because of like this thing with the Olympics, what do you think, in your perspective, do you think the scene will need in the future, and where you see the scene to grow and how for it to grow?
I think we need to come back together, because when I started breaking, there was no such thing. We didn't talk about breaking culture or b-boy culture. It was hip-hop culture. And now you got people saying like, oh, you know, in breaking culture and this and that. And even that is weird for me. Like jams back in the day had it all, you know, like we had rapping there, we had people doing graph, DJing. So it would be cool for us to look at what that looks like now, because obviously hip-hop music has changed. Art's changed. People aren't going out with spray cans no more. They're making art in different ways. You know, like I think we need to reinvent what a hip-hop event looks like. And it would be cool for us to come back together, because that's why jams were so lit back in the day, because you had people from all different elements watching, and they would bring different people. So it was a crazy atmosphere. Now, because we've separated, now it's breaking culture, you just got breakers there. So we got to bring back that aspect of it. I think that would really help, bringing the culture back together, stop separating ourselves from it. Yeah, I think that would be cool, because when I started breaking was definitely capturing more kids from the street, where it doesn't anymore. Kids from the street want to rap drill or do all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely lost its touch from that, which is kind of sad, but it's normal because times change. What kids connect to changes. It was just that was the timing then. But yeah, I think bringing it all back together would be awesome.
Mad. And I guess like we'll kind of sort of wrap it up, but what does the future hold for you in terms of your relationship with hip-hop culture, and what have you got coming up?
Hip-hop culture. So I just finished my degree. It's a BSS majoring in mental health. And I want to go more into the therapeutic side, how to use hip-hop in other ways, and how to actually I want to show people what it's really doing. You know, I mean like at a scientific level, what it's doing to people, because it's changing people's lives. I mean, we know it saves people's lives, but it's not a known thing. You know, everyone out there they just see what they see, but they don't realize that some of those fellas that are big rappers now, they were able to save their family. They were able to buy their mum a house. They were able to do all these things that they could never do. So I think for me, because I also work in prisons too, I want to really get hip hop out there, and get it utilized more for its the powerful intervention capabilities it has. It can change people. It can take the hardest kids, you know, and just like soften them up and get them talking about their feelings. Like when you come to the prison, you come in, these hard kids are talking about their lives and how they feel and what's going on in their head. Where else do you get that? You know what I mean? So yeah, I want to go that route. Music production, I'm loving that as well. Artist development, I got a couple of kids that I'm working with. One of my kids actually, who came out of my program, who was always dope. His name's Inkaby. He's performing this weekend. Yeah, I wanna help develop these kids more. And in terms of breaking, I don't know, bro. I'm kind of just going with the flow at the moment. I'm surprised I'm still in this. I'm surprised I'm relevant at all. So yeah, just kind of enjoying it right now. Yeah.
You got any last words, any pieces of advice, any shout outs you'd like to make?
Pieces of advice: look after your body, look after your mind, your soul, look after your family. Yeah, stay healthy. Things I'm not trying to get deep or anything, but society's designed in a way for us to think of death as something that's so far from us, when actually it's always present. I could die, step out there and get hit. Whereas we think we're going to live forever for some reason. We all think we're going to live to 80, 90, 100. We can't guarantee that, but death is always around the corner. You never know. So live your life, make the most of your days. You know what I mean? Reach out to people, show gratitude every day. Gratitude goes a long way, man. Gratitude triples your blessings. So yeah, I mean, look where we are. We're in a pretty amazing country. You know, we've got all these opportunities. Yeah, so be grateful. Yeah, and spread love.
Just want to take this moment to thank you for jumping on board and sharing your knowledge. I feel like there was so much more. We probably could have kept going into more subjects, so we'll have to get you back on definitely in the future. Big shout out to Commonhouse, that's where we are today, as well as to 4E Sydney, who brought you out for the event. And yeah, this podcast will be up very, very soon. This is us, Tydal, Rush.
Yep.
We are out.
Peace.
Thank you very much.